The ball. This is News Talk.
Well then, very impressive as it was. Manchester City came up with win number 14 on the bounce against Brighton yesterday. They have denied Liverpool that long-awaited league title. We'll have a football show that includes Dave McIntyre and Mark Lawrenson with their tuppence worth. We will also hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after, some 18 months on. He finally has Cardiff playing well, goes the joke. Thank you. Saracens came from 10-0 down to beat Leinster, double scores at St James's Park. Rory O'Connor and Liam Toland with us after 8 o'clock. 7:30, Nicky English and Tommy Welch on the weekends hurling. And Brian McGuigan will give us the early word in Tyrone as well. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off The Ball on Twitter. Richie here in studio as ever. Hello.
How are you, Joe?
And Rory O'Connor from the Irish Independent, who will be on the rugby chat after 8 o'clock, has joined us early. Hello.
Hey, Joe.
So St James's Park, it looked on TV, especially just pre-kick-off, as those spider cameras were down over the players' shoulders, like it was really phenomenal atmosphere.
It was class. Newcastle was a brilliant venue. I know people probably had difficulty getting hotels and flights. It was possibly a little bit more expensive than it should have been for that reason. But once you were there, I was just really impressed by it. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been before. It's a lovely place, and they were really welcoming. They really bought into it, and the stadium was rocking. And in fairness to them, they got loads of grief, but Saracens brought loads of fans, and they contributed just as much as the Leinster fans, who came in massive numbers as well. So as an occasion, it was amazing. And the press box in the St James's Park is right up on top of the pitch, and to be that close to those collisions was just something unbelievable. It was the same on Friday night, Clermont La Rochelle. To see those players do what they do it's frightening stuff, but it's if you can park your fright, it's pretty entertaining as well. It was an incredible game of rugby.
The lingering memory is just of this red wall on Leinster, wondering quite how we get through it or around it.
In the last 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
They're just so good at that. They squeeze you, and once they get ahead of you, they're relentless and ruthless, and they just have a strategy that just says they don't take a backward step. And they look like the worst team in the world to play against. There was no space. James Lowe just kept coming up for the ball. He kept looking for it, and every time he did, he got driven back a few metres more. And Leinster, to their credit, kept going until the end, but because of their lack of options off the bench, because of the amount of tackles they'd had to make, the amount of tackles they'd gone backwards in, just had nothing left in their legs. And they're massively impressive. Like three out of four matches with that Leinster team of 2009 to 2012, and to do it the way they did it with the unbeaten, to go double scores in semi-final and the final
and quarters, they put 56 points on.
And then some. So they're not a hugely likeable club, but they are an incredibly impressive club. And what I do admire about them is the bond that they have. They seem to have throughout their entire squad. They brought all of their not their subs, their underage players, their families onto the pitch. They seem to really buy into it, and it's pretty formidable what they've built. And their age profile suggests that they're going to be right up there for the next couple of years as well.
Yeah. Like, you had some interesting stats in the paper today that with 88% of carries, Leinster either didn't make progress or actually went backwards.
Yeah.
Sean O'Brien, for his 12 carries, made a net gain of 1 metre, which must be the only time in Sean O'Brien's life that has happened, and he probably wasn't the only one who was struggling to get forward at all. Just the sheer physicality of Saracens, it seems, as of 2019, Ireland are on the wrong side of this dominant tackle physicality stakes. And last year, Ireland were bullying teams physically. And I know Leinster are not Ireland and Ireland not Leinster, but if we're talking about Irish rugby, there is now a bit of an issue for Ireland when it comes to the power game. I really would not fancy Billy and his boys lining up against Ireland in the World Cup.
Yeah, well, I think semi-final is probably the first time that Ireland can come across England, and it's more likely to be on the other side of the draw, I think, having not seen it in a while, so that's a good thing. But it's not as if South Africa or New Zealand are kind of shrinking violets when it comes to the physical stakes. I know we're going to get into this a bit later on, but the fear is that last year was Ireland's physical peak, and that this year they've fallen back some of the way, and that the rivals, particularly England and the English teams, not the English teams, Saracens are the bulk contributors to that English team, so it's pretty much the same set of players that are winning those collisions, have gone up a couple of gears. Whether there's something to be said for the fact that Ireland have, because they're in a centralised training programme, have some sort of physical peak. The whole thing is designed that they peak in September, October. You kind of hope so. Whether the toll of so many of them being Lions and then going on to such a dominant year has taken a toll, and maybe they just need a break, maybe they need a summer off. Like, I'm not a strength and conditioning coach, I don't know. You would hope that they didn't burn themselves out per peak too early, which was some of the things that we said that were fears at the time. But I probably brushed over them a bit because I didn't really buy into it. But there definitely has been a fall off. Very hard to maintain what Ireland did last season, but to see them, I always thought Cardiff was a more worrying defeat than the Dublin defeat. But to see it happen again, albeit I think Leinster were closer to Saracens and probably had moments where they could have got ahead of them in ways that Ireland didn't. It's definitely a concern. You have to be worried about it. And I'm sure Joe Schmidt and Andy Farrell and all the coaching ticket as they watched on will be concerned.
Yeah. Rich, you're starting the news round with word on Chris Hughton.
Yeah, the first day of postseason in the Premier League has brought the first managerial casualty. Chris Hughton today sacked as Brighton manager less than 24 hours following the completion of their Premier League season. The former Republic of Ireland defender paid the price for a season that saw the Seagulls finish fourth from bottom and just 2 points clear of relegation. Hughton was appointed Brighton boss in December of 2014, with the club sitting 21st in the Championship table. He guided them to promotion to the Premier League in 2017, leading them to a 15th place finish on their return to the top flight last term. But with Brighton 4 points off last year's points total, Hughton's left the club, with Swansea boss Graham Potter the preferred candidate to replace him. And speaking after yesterday's 4-1 loss to newly crowned champions Manchester City, Hughton admitted that this season just hadn't been good enough.
I think sometimes you're better off thinking or admitting that we could have done better, as opposed to, I'm absolutely happy where we are, and you go into next season, thinking that. So I think we need to do better next year, and we'll work hard in the summer to hopefully do that.
It's it's a tough one, and Chris Hughton's such a gent. And 3 wins in their last 23, 4 points worse off than last season. Maybe a sense that things have turned in the wrong direction. You could certainly make the argument Hughton deserves more time and a bit of money over the summer, but equally, I can see the logic. I can see why it was a worried board.
Yeah, I think last term, in January, the signings that were brought in weren't necessarily his signings. They were made above his head, and he wasn't necessarily able to wrestle, or I suppose find a happy middle ground between the type of football he wants to play and the type of football that those players are bought to perform. There's another question: is at what point do you stop having ambition? Like, was getting into the Premier League the full stop for Brighton, and should it be the full stop for Brighton or not? There comes a point, I still keep meaning to find this thread, but there's a point about Premier League survival and whether or not it's actually the be all and end all, because you end up with this constant need to survive and stay up, playing some dreadful football.
Yeah.
And Brighton, unfortunately, have been one of the chief, players in all of that, and playing some awful stuff just to basically stay in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Whereas if they open their shoulders a little bit, if they try something different, they might, kick on. They might do a Southampton and get a coach in with a little bit more left field experience, like Ralph Hasenhüttl has done down there. But they need to do something. I think it was kind of do something or get off the pot for them this summer.
It's tough though. It's like now Newcastle, Norwich and Brighton, where Chris Hughton's probably wondering, what did I do that was so terribly wrong?
He'll be fine though, won't he? I mean,
I would have thought so.
The next time, another gig, high championship or low Premier League, like he's kept teams up, albeit the loss of, you can understand that loss of momentum with good teams coming up, and the way that the promoted teams have performed compared to the way that he's finished ahead of 3 pretty poor teams.
Yeah,
and not by much.
And you can understand why they probably have made a move, because it is so important to stay there.
Lads, what was Luke McGrath doing before half-time? Kicked the ball dead, and Leinster butchered a 5-on-2 as well. Serious momentum shift, and Sarries were always offside, says Dermot. Whereas Val says, these defences smothering the opposition are killing rugby. Saracens suffocated the life out of the game. Not something I want to watch every week. It seemed like in the initial few minutes the offside rule was going to be enforced, and Dev Toner's clever little line-out thing gave it.
That was good.
Just think twice, everyone. But then they seem to drift back into the norm, which is offside is a pretty vague. Let's not be too pernickety about offside.
Yeah, and that tends to happen. Saracens were pretty disciplined. I have to say, I thought their line speed was, a lot of times, certainly first half, was pretty legit.
Okay.
Like they were just so fast off the line. One of the drawbacks of having the game in a football stadium, and Leo Cullen referenced this afterwards, is that it is a tighter pitch. And tighter pitch, bigger men means less space, and it possibly limits what you're able to do, and plays into their hands a little bit. I don't think he was looking for an excuse, but it's just a small reality of it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game as a game, and it was a phenomenal thing to watch. Is it sustainable? I don't know. It's a pretty dangerous way of playing the game week in, week out over the course of a 40-week season. It was relentless. But yeah, there's not a huge amount of...
The game will evolve, some innovation will... Probably some kicking innovation will come up.
Well, we saw what England did in the Six Nations to do it.
It'll put manners on the...
And even
defense.
Michael Lowry, say, playing for Ulster, a little small guy who's able to find space in that big pitch, is that the way, is there going to be a couple more smaller players who can do it? I'm not sure, but someone's going to have to innovate or else Saracens are going to rule the roost, but they found a pretty potent mix right now.
Yeah. Pep is obviously very happy.
He absolutely is. That 4-1 win at Brighton saw Manchester City confirmed as back-to-back Premier League champions. They finished just 1 point ahead of Liverpool following a run of 14 straight victories to end the season, but Pep Guardiola wasn't thinking about that run at all.
When you are there, you don't think to make 14 this run and make 14 games in a row. So you are thinking just what's next game, what's next, we're going to forget. So in that period, Liverpool was incredible. We were playing the FA Cup, we were playing the Carabao Cup. He could not play. So he played 1 game a week. And we were playing. We played 8 or 9 more games than them in this season. So it's a lot, It's 1 month half. That's why being there all the time until the end, it's fantastic.
Meanwhile, Manchester City are facing the prospect of a ban from the Champions League. Tariq Panja in the New York Times this evening reports that the chair of the investigatory panel into their alleged breaches of financial fair play rules is pushing for at least a 1-season ban. Yves Leterme is a former Prime Minister of Belgium, and he heads up the investigatory chamber of UEFA's Financial Control Board. Submission of their findings could come as early as this week, with a ban their preferred outcome.
No chance.
It'll go to Cass, that's for damn sure.
Let's lawyer up.
Yeah, that's what Panja's actually writing about that their fear in handing out this ban is that City will come with the full heft and weight of all their lawyers and all that comes with it.
We'll spend 20 years in court here, fellas, while we work this out. So, Johan van Graan was speaking today.
Yeah, for the first time since the departures, or the impending departures of both Jerry Flannery and Felix Jones, who both leave the province at the end of the season. Van Graan saying the province did everything they could, retaining the party line, to retain both Flannery and Jones. On the injury front, Keith Earls and Joey Carberry both back in contention for Saturday's Pro 14 semi-final with Leinster. And speaking ahead of that game with the RDS, Van Graan spoke for the first time about his disappointment even, of seeing Flannery and Jones go.
Obviously, we'll lose a bit of continuity on the coaching side, and something that I hope that we could retain. But that's professional sport, and you've got to be able to adapt. The positive thing about it is we've retained 22 players, so our playing squad will be exactly the same, bar Nick coming in from the outside. And unfortunately, life happens. We'll have to adapt. Luckily, we've done our pre-season planning in terms of what we need to do, and we've got a fantastic medical and S&C staff that will handle the first part of the pre-season. Because of the World Cup, the Pro 14 will start so much later. So we've got a bit of time. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say it's ideal, but it is what it is now, and I've got to deal with that and see the positive out of that. And there's massive opportunity in this disappointment, and hopefully we can see the bright side of it.
You were down there today?
Yeah, he's pretty. He fronted up about it, but you could see that he was very disappointed. He's obviously said it there, but he wasn't. It was very much genuine, and he knows, you can't but know how bad this looks for him, for the organisation to lose. If he was going to be cutthroat and say, look, we need to move on from Jones and Flannery, he would have made this decision in December or January. Said, look, thanks and good luck, we'll finish out the season and replace you. That's not what's happened, and he's in a really sticky spot in a week where he should be preparing for the biggest game of his season. He's facing questions about this, and he answered them all.
The bulk of the press conference, was it?
Yeah, well, about 50-50. It was a big enough game, and they got it out of the way early on, and we went back to it and we were talking to him in the dailies a little bit later, the way things are broken up. But it's difficult to move on from, because the players have got to be talking about it in the dressing room.
Yeah.
The fans are certainly talking about it, and the fans are certainly concerned, and it just disrupts any sense of continuity. It was such a positive thing, I thought, a couple of weeks ago, that they nailed them down for a couple more years, that they were going to stop this complete merry-go-round of coaches that they've had for the last couple of seasons, and suddenly all of it, half of his backroom, or more, two-thirds of his backroom team leave in one go with 2 weeks to go in the season. It's just not a good look for anyone, and it's put them in a serious pickle in terms of finding replacements at this stage.
Fans are talking about it because there's all sorts of rumour, I would presume, in the area, and even I've heard you hear different versions of as to what has gone on, and different reports even in the papers yesterday. So are Munster completely shocked at this, and this is the last thing they wanted, and they genuinely made every effort to keep Flannery and Jones, or were they given a fairly average offering, plus you've got the likes of potentially a Rob Howley or some other attacks coach coming in, and their positions, I'm not saying they were made untenable, but a situation was created whereby it might be very possible for Jones and Flannery to say, okay, we're going, and Munster were happy enough for that to happen. I still don't know where the truth lies in all of that.
Yeah, I know you're always searching for that, but right up until midway through last week, the word was that the two of them were going to stay on, that the focus was get Van Graan done, then they go and sort out the two assistant coaches, and certainly I don't think anyone had it before it came out, and a lot of people were making inquiries as to what was going on, and the word was coming out consistently that everyone was confident that the two assistant coaches would continue. And then it seems that the word that Rob Howley, or potentially Rob Howley, or senior attack coach as such, is going to be recruited, maybe wasn't communicated to them before it came out publicly, and they've decided that it's not for them, which.
Well, that wouldn't be good. You don't find that out.
If that is the case, that is pretty poorly managed. Van Graan is not doing the contracts himself; it's the Professional Games Board. But he would have certainly, he'd be driving what the make of his backroom staff would be. And he said they did everything in their power. We don't know the ins and outs of how much money was offered, etc., of things like that. But they went from a point of being pretty confident to, and both people saying they wanted to stay, to the two of them leaving pretty abruptly last week.
Okay. Leinster then, team news?
Yeah, good news for them. Josh van der Fleer is available for that meeting with Munster. The Ireland flanker was expected to miss the rest of the season after undergoing groin surgery, but he's recovered ahead of time. Leinster are looking to recover from Saturday's 2010 loss to Saracens in that Heineken Champions Cup final. And speaking on this morning's OTB AM, Alan Quinlan said that the game at St James's Park, as you mentioned, highlighted a glaring issue within the game.
If you ruck and the gain line there's a line across the field and it's a gain line, if you've guys standing over that, they're obviously going to get to the attack quicker. If they have to go back a yard and they can't sprint off this line really quickly, well, that gives the opposition a chance to play and put it through the hands, and maybe we will see a bit more attacking rugby rather than all these collisions around the breakdown. Plus, if I'm coming around the breakdown...
Is it hard to referee? Is that the issue?
Very hard. Look, Matt Williams said it on Virgin Media the other day, and he said it before, and I agree with him. A second referee could help this scenario, policing the breakdown. Now, it's very, very difficult. It's great for me. I'm above in the stand on the top tier, and I'm looking down doing the commentary, and I can see, like, as the ball is being passed, they're halfway up the ruck. And it just means that even off the one-out carriers, Ger, those guys then are coming around, because as they're getting the ball, the defence is right on top of them.
Yeah.
So it's collision, collision. Some people said to me, and Shane Coleman said it on breakfast, and you know what, he's saying, look, I like rugby. If Leinster weren't playing the other day, I probably would have switched it off, because it wasn't a game that was attracting me to brilliant rugby. And you know what, it's not just to the quality of the rugby, to the player welfare, these impacts, the concussions, which is massive.
Yeah.
The attritional side of it, the knocks, the physicality. Like at the end of the game the other day, it just went totally out the window, the offside line. Leinster were trying to run out of their own 22. Saracens were just... it was phenomenal how offside they were at times. And they were dead right. I do the exact same thing.
When it's not getting caught.
Closing out a game.
That is OTB AM, our sports breakfast show. It's on every weekday morning from 7:45. You'll find it on offtheball.com, YouTube, Twitter and the Facebook, so you can start your day with Off the Ball. You can see our social channels for full broadcast details.
The increasingly common refrain from everybody involved in the game is that it's near impossible for the referee to keep an eye on everything, because there's so much going down at the breakdown now around rucks. There's like a checklist of things that have to be observed, and the offside line increasingly is 4 or 5 or 6 on the list.
Yeah.
It was interesting, you don't hear the touch officials getting involved. Joy Neville did in the Leinster-Ulster match, and you could hear her on TV quite often. She was pinging a number of Leinster players for being offside, and it was notable because it was so rare.
They did on Saturday a bit, but not as the game went on. And I think as the game went on in the second half, they just pushed it and pushed it. I think
their attitude is, let's try and put a marker down as a refereeing team at the start. And then once the game goes on,
and then people don't want to stop-start game either. But I do think this like, I don't know about the idea of setting it a metre back, because that's given another metre of kind of wind up for each collision, which potentially makes them even more dangerous. But I do think maybe you use, like, at the elite level, I don't know if you can do this every week in the Pro 14, but there is a TMO at every game. Could the TMO being a bunker with the use of technology, say the NFL style lines, whereby he's actually watching that, or he or she is watching that and telling to the referee, going, that's offside, because I think real time live, they're watching so much. Touch judges could definitely help, but like, there's ego at play there as well, where they want the big games as well. There's all sorts of things. You hear stories about that sort of thing in every sport, not just in rugby.
You're saying the touch official is like, I'll let this game descend into madness, and then I might get the next.
It's been known to happen in the past, and they're watching a lot of things as well. Although they could definitely be offside officials. There is certainly scope for them to be more involved. It is something, especially in a World Cup year when the eyes of the world will be watching more on the sport. If it's I enjoyed Saturday, as I said, but if it is suffocating all the time, if it's becoming more a game of suffocation, and that is a dangerous way to be going.
A doozy of a headline on your next piece, Richie.
You're very welcome. Do you want to reveal it?
No, I think you should.
It's titled La Raj Shell.
Oh, quality.
You can have that one tomorrow, Ru.
Yeah. Irish Independent.
Ronan O'Gara.
All yours.
Could be a step closer.
Steal your work.
By all means, pay me. Could be a step closer to a return to the French top 14. The La Rochelle have confirmed the departure of Bacs coach Javier Garbajosa. The former French international will leave the Challenge Cup finalists on July the 1st and is expected to take over at Montpellier. Midi Olympique reported last week that O'Gara had been offered a 3-year contract to work alongside John O'Gibbs at La Rochelle. They lost to Clermont in Friday's Challenge Cup final, but sit 4th in this season's top 14 with 2 games of the regular season to go, and they're set for a quarter-final appearance.
Is this happening, yeah? Midi Olympique love a good Ronan O'Gara joins whatever, insert French team or national team role here, kind of a story.
They do. I think this one's
they're as
real.
Obsessed with Raj as us.
Yeah, well, he's a compelling world figure. He's a globetrotter of the game, and
this one's true, you reckon?
It looks it. Yeah, I haven't been talking to him. They wouldn't talk about it on Friday night after they lost to Clermont, which is possibly understandable.
Yeah.
Gibbs is building, on the work that went on there before. They were the breakout team of last year's Champions Cup, fell apart as it went on, but in the pool stages they were great. They have a big stadium, a big fan base. They're relatively new in the top 14, but they're a growing club, and it just is another step on his journey as a coach, from a big club to big club, picking up experience. I think he'll have more responsibility there. I think Gibbs is kind of a director of rugby type figure. He'll possibly come in as the head coach, design the attack, have an influence over the defence, work with really world-class players. And his contract, I think, if the timing is aligned as it is in my head, it will expire at the same time as Johan van Graan's at Munster, and the stars will align, and he'll no longer be available to Newstalk on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
We'll
maybe he will.
Maybe
he will.
Whatever it takes.
But you would hope that this journey is going to land them back at Munster, and we'd see how it goes. But it was never realistic. Van Graan said he was open to the idea of himself and O'Connell coming in. I don't think it was ever realistic. I don't think it would be a wise move for Van Graan to bring in a hero of that size into his coaching ticket. But 3 or 4 years is a natural cycle, and if the stars align, the stars align.
I suspect they may. So that's pretty much just done from a Newsround point of view. This evening time is coming against us. All this week we are teaming up with Skoda. This is a hell of a prize, by the way, to send one lucky off-the-ball listener to the Tour de France. It's a VIP end-of-week prize up for grabs, which includes 2 nights in a hotel, helicopter ride, and a bike ride with a former Tour de France winner. All with thanks to Skoda. Book your next service at skodaservice.ie. To get yourself in the draw, just identify our Mr. Voice. Not particularly heartbroken after Leinster lost to Sarries.
I don't give a shite.
Ooh.
You know me, buddy. I don't give a shite.
Almost as good as David Brady's Dubs impersonation.
You know me, buddy. I don't give a shite.
Do we have Brady's on standby? I'll wait 15 minutes to dig that out. It's worth it.
Can we just get him highlighting saying Tickle and Steele, because that was my personal TV favourite.
If you know who that is, we will play you David Brady's Dublin impression. What is this? Someone says to me, are you David Brady? Oh yeah. We will play that before 8 o'clock. Text your name and answer 53106 if you know who that mystery voice was, though.
You know me, buddy. I don't give a shite.
for 30 cents. 53106 will announce the winner.
The Monday
overall
after
on
the
Friday
Champions
show.
Cup final and the Premier League is won, your main point of content is pointing towards David Brady's dub impression.
It's, remember,
Give the listeners what they want, Joe.
Exactly. If you want to enjoy the expertise of Skoda technicians, book your service at skodaservice.ie. That is a brilliant prize to get over and have a look at the Tour de France. So the plan is 8 o'clock we'll be talking rugby with Rory and Liam Toland. Brian McGuigan will give us the word on the weekend's football. We've got a busy football show, as you might imagine. Mark Lawrenson will join us, as will Dave McIntyre. And up next, we have Nicky English and Tommy Welch talking hurling.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Experience the excitement of the GAA this summer with Sky Sports half price for 6 months. The hard knocks.
There's the tackle and there's the turnover.
The relentless pace.
They're coming thick and fast.
Be inside the game with exclusive live matches and expert analysis.
So tough and so skillful.
Catch the unmissable action of the GAA All-Ireland Senior Championship this summer with Sky Sports half price for 6 months.
What a finish to this game!
Search Sky GAA. New Sky Sports customers. Sky TV minimum term and T's and C's apply.
3.5 billion euros. That's how much fraud and cybercrime is costing Irish business and the state every year. On May the 17th, the International Fraud Prevention Conference takes place in Dublin's RDS. For the first time, the world's top experts will be in one place to help provide solutions to this growing problem. Whether you're a large corporation, public body or small business, the International Fraud Prevention Conference is a must. Register now at internationalfraudprevention.com.
Discover even more of the world this summer with Qatar Airways. Fly daily from Dublin to your favourite destinations with increased flights, complimentary seat allocation and a 30-kilogram bag allowance as standard. Book now at qatarairways.com. Qatar Airways. Going places together.
Mattresses Delivered will deliver your mattress immediately to any part of Ireland, free. Quality and best prices guaranteed. That's mattresses-delivered.ie. Don't forget the hyphen. T's and C's apply.
If you want an appliance and you want it delivered,